Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm going to be ranking, or not necessarily ranking, but at least talking about the viability of every Pokemon TCG Pocket card and saying how good they are. Some are pretty generic. I've ranked all the ones we've seen at some point in the past, but there are more cards now. I talked about some either earlier today or yesterday, depending on time zone, and just talked about how good the cards that I had looked at in the one Pokebeach article I thought were, but today we're looking at the other cards, and I said every card. There's Genetic Apex, which is the set, the expansion, which has 226 cards. That's a lot. But then there's these like promo cards or something. I don't know. I'm using the website Pokemon Zone. I don't know how reliable this is. I know there is a Pokeball card though, but there are here it says 5 trainers, 4 items, which are not the only items we've seen. We'll talk about that, but they're the main items, right? So you can have two of every card as well, and these cards seem pretty good. Potion, you can play any number of items during your turn as well, which is interesting. There we go. We got to click on it. That took a while, but yeah, it heals 20 from one of your Pokemon, which seems pretty good. And then Pokeball, this is like definitely a card you should include in every deck. Put one random basic Pokemon from your deck into your hand, and yeah, that's like really good. It should be in every deck. I gotta assume hand scope. Your opponent reveals their hand, which is an interesting item. I feel like that's kind of weird. Red card. Your opponent shuffles their hand to their deck and draws 3. So it looks like there was some hand disruption. And Professor's Research, just draw 2 cards, and nothing super crazy there. The supporters definitely feel kind of weak. Like the items feel okay, not like they feel a little weaker than standard items, but not that much weaker. Potion, standards draw. Wait a second. No, red card's actually stronger, but the smaller deck size and lower counts, it's like not actually. It's probably weaker, I guess. I don't know. I mean, if this card's in standard, it would be broken. I mean, it would definitely be banned. It's banned and expanded. Your opponent shuffles their hand and draws 4. But anyways, potion. Wait, is it banned? Anyway, heal 20 is pretty good in standards. Heal 30. Professor's Research. Like the supporters seem kind of weak. Like they feel about the level of items, which is kind of weird. But anyways, these cards seem solid. The items seem solid. They're all blue as well, which is like kind of weird. But anyways, I cannot confirm 100% whether these are the actual cards from the like promos, which I believe you get at the start. But I know Pokeball is one of them. Red card's an interesting inclusion. I'll talk more about those like staple cards later and trainers in Pokemon TCG Pocket. But yeah, let's just take a look at the cards. Bulbasaur, it does 40, and I'll be looking at this art. Some are kind of blurry, but they're okay generally. They're pretty good. It does 40 for 2 and has 70 HP. This is solid. 40 for 2. We'll see a lot of 20 for 1s, and over the first 2 turns, it's the same amount of damage, but then it'll just be more like for the 40 for 2 Pokemon. So I think Bulbasaur is a very solid Pokemon, but nothing super special here, obviously. Ivysaur, unfortunately, a little blurry, but 64, 3, 2 colors specifically, and then one grass. And weakness is plus 20, and it has 2 retreat as well. It's 90 HP. I mean, it's okay. Again, nothing super special. There are definitely better cards than this, but it isn't evolving stage 1, which evolves into 2 stage 2s. Though keep in mind you can only have 2 of each card, so you don't want to be running like 4 stage 2s most likely. You could if you want. You can run 2 of the regular Venusaur and 2 of the EX. But we have Venusaur here, 160 HP, which is very solid. I'm going to talk about this in Venusaur EX kind of together, but for 4 energy, 2 which are grass, does 80, heal 30 from this Pokemon. And Venusaur EX, which has 190 HP, which is 30 more. It does 60 for 3, 60 for 3 or 100 for 4. You can see the attacks costs here. It's 2 colorless for each. The 4 cost attack does 100 and then heals 30. That's 20 more than the single prize Venusaur, which is good, but it's also a 2 prize giving up. I mean, 2 prizes. It's an EX giving up 2 prizes, which are the only 2 prizes so far. And I don't think the EX is really like that much better. Certainly, it's going to be harder to acquire. I actually think the single prizer might be better. They have the same retreat cost. The 60 for 3 attack is nice. It does allow you to like do damage earlier, but giving up an extra prize seems tough to justify. You won't be surviving much more. You have 30 more HP. You heal the same amount. Like, Venusaur, the single prizer, I think might be better. No, I definitely think it is better. We'll see. I'm not gonna be able to play the game for a month. It's well, presumably, it comes out. It's out in New Zealand now. It'll be out internationally in a month. I live in the U.S., so we'll see if it comes to other countries. But if it comes before that date, but presumably if it comes to other countries, that those countries will be not the U.S., which is completely fair. So then we have Venusaur EX, as I just talked about, which is not a bad card. I think it's okay. Then we have Caterpie, which is for one colorless. It has 50 HP, by the way, one retreat. One retreat's like normal, but 50 HP is a little low. 60 is like the norm. For one colorless, put a random grass Pokemon from your deck into your hand. This actually seems really good for setting up. Should survive a turn or two, and will just allow you to get yourself a few grass Pokemon into your hand and get like going. I think this attack's actually really good. Obviously, you might not get the cards you need, but at the very least you're thinning your deck, but you could hit your hand limit as well. And it's not like you have energy card. You're playing like some Pokemon and then some trainers every turn. That's kind of what you're looking at. But those trainers are going to be like one trainer a turn and like one Pokemon a turn. So if you keep filling up your hand, you might clog that up. It's not like these are just free cards. They could have downside, but I think Caterpie is still a very good card. Metapod is really boring here. It is all colorless. I believe Butterfree is not, yeah. So you will be playing Grass Energy if you're playing this. Oh, this is a really interesting card. I have not looked at all these cards. I've seen some. Man, Genetic Apex, it really does have info here. It has this ability, and that's it. It doesn't say what the ability does, but yeah, Metapod is obviously nothing special. You could say it's like, oh, it's a tech attacking option or something, but it's not very good. But then we have Butterfree here with one retreat. Like, I mean, I know why Pokemon does this. It's just something they do where the stage one has more retreat. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it pertains to the speed stat. I've heard that, but I've also heard that's not true. But anyways, Butterfree Hat is a stage two with one retreat, does 60 for grass, colorless, and once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. You have 120 HP as well. I think this Pokemon is really good, really fun, kind of annoying. You do not lose if you deck out, I'm pretty sure. So going for a stall-based strategy, which this certainly, encourages, could be solid, but it's not like you're decking your opponent out. That's not the idea. The idea is that you're going to just buy lots of time and attack. But I think you pair this with, Venusaur EX or the single prize Venusaur or both, and then you use Butterfree. You have the Caterpie do set up. I think that's a very strong deck. We just have a ton of healing. This card seems very strong. I think healing's like good. Healing's fun in standard. It's like not really a thing that just happens very, very often. You can use it in some decks, but it's pretty niche. But I think Butterfree is definitely a very strong card. Then we got Weedle. This is bad. I did not look at this card before. The generic HP is going to be 60 here, I'm pretty sure, unless they've changed like all the cards. But yeah, this is not good. Then we have Kakuna. This is okay. I mean, 30 for one's like okay, but nothing super special. Then we have Beedrill. Oh, this is pretty solid. This is interesting. Yeah, 120 HP. 70 for only one is really good. We just looked at the what was it? The Butterfree, I believe, had yeah, it did 60 for 30. It obviously had a good ability, but this has one retreat again, and it does 70 for one. This seems like a really solid card, a really fun card. Um, it's not like super broken. Also, like these arts are reused. I don't know if this art's reused. I don't remember all the arts, but yeah, Beedrill here is definitely going to be a pretty solid attacker. I feel like it's just very efficient. But it is a stage two, and this time you could have actually built up more energy. Obviously, it is a better attacker than Butterfree. Just objectively, it's way better. But cheapness on a stage two is not the same as cheapness on a basic. Being a cheap basic attacker is potentially really good early game pressure versus on a stage two. It's nice and it means that you can do some more things, but it's not like super important compared to the level that is in a basic, at least at this point. Then we have Oddish, we got the 60-20 stats here. We got Gloom, pretty generic, certainly fine. Then we got Vileplume. This, okay, it has sleep. I assume sleep works like it does in standard, where your opponent's active is asleep. When they're asleep, they cannot attack or retreat, and in between each turn, they flip a coin. If heads, they wake up. So this is like kind of annoying. It has 140 HP, which is pretty solid. 3 retreat, obviously. You're kind of locking into this game plan. You're looking at like 2 shots, one-shotting certainly some Pokemon, but not all Pokemon. If you look at a Pokemon like Gloom, you're one-shotting. Still one-shotting a good chunk, but certainly not all. You can't rely on one-shotting. You need to kind of rely on the sleep and like 2-shotting stuff. There are ways to switch and stuff. I don't know too many, but I know there are some ways. But I mean, there wasn't a switch card that we saw in that. There was like 5 cards that you get to start with, but then you have Vileplume. Like the sleep is really good if you get it, but you won't always get it. So 80 for 3 is okay. Its stat line's pretty good. I think this card's like certainly fine. It's not healing focused. It's a little different than the other grass ones as well, specifically the healing focused ones. Then we have Paris. Oh, this one looks really ugly because the it's very blurry, but these stats are whatever, right? Then we have Parasect here, 80 for 3. This is a pretty generic stage 1 stat line for a final evolution, but it's okay, I gotta assume. Then we come to Venonat. Oh, this attack actually is the same as the Vileplume as well, without the sleeps. It's certainly solid. Then we have Venonat, generic stat line. Then we got Venomoth, 30 and poison for 1 grass. I actually kind of like this. You can kind of pair this with the Beedrill, attack with Venomoth, attack with the Beedrill, and you have like average HP, but you have or average to below average HP, but you do have a solid attack. This is 40 for 1, but it's poison, right? So I don't know if there's any poison immunity, but you're able to do that 30 for 1. Also, I keep like thinking this is a mistake on the screen. There's like a little dot here, because I don't know why the set symbol looks like that, but yeah, you are able to do a solid chunk of damage, and the poison, it's an extra damage counter between each turn, like both ways. So this is going to add up. They might have to retreat, but not every deck will be wanting to retreat all the time. I've been mentioning retreat cost a lot, and this is a solid attack that I like personally. Bellsprout, pretty generic. Weeping Bell, again, pretty generic. There you do have 90 HP. Victory Bell, 60 for 2, but you have this ability, Fragrance Trap. If it's in the active, once during your turn, you may switch in one of your opponent's bench basic Pokemon to the active. Wow, that's really good, especially when this is going to be allowing you to knock out a lot of Pokemon. I think this ability is insane. Gusting, if you're not familiar with the regular Pokemon TCG, this is something called Gusting, where you switch bench Pokemon to the active. It's only basics, but this is huge against basic decks and decks that have basics in play, which will be a lot of them. Keep in mind, if your opponent is setting up a Victory Bell, don't play basics that might be vulnerable to your opponent's Pokemon because they may be able to switch them into the active. It does have a 2 retreat cost, which is definitely a very serious downside because you're not going to be setting this into the active then retreating. But this ability is so strong. This is definitely the strongest ability I've seen in Pocket so far. I think there was one that like Supporter locked, which could be good, but I think this is better. And yeah, this is really strong. The attack's not very good, right? That's a really big downside of this card, but it's not like a terrible attack or unusable attack. It's just not, I mean, you're not one-shotting your opponent's Moltres EX or anything like that with this card, but you are one-shotting their, like, Charmanders or whatever. Then we got, I don't know why I choose to fire Pokemon, which hit it for weakness. Also, weakness is plus 20. I might talk about that at some point more. Execute, the bad stat line, but whatever. We got Executor here, which does 30 or 60 on a coin flip, 130 HP. This is a really solid card, similar in vein to the Venomoth. It's obviously, higher retreat, potentially higher damage, but it is less consistent, bit tankier. This is like a solid attacker. We see a lot of these 1 energy grass Pokemon so far. So then you can like retreat more. If they have like a lower retreat cost, like retreating doesn't mean you're not attacking. You can retreat and still attack. So that's something really nice for these Pokemon. Yeah, Executor EX. Okay. This is the same card except it has slightly more HP and just slightly more damage. Okay, I don't like this. So EXs give up 2 points when knocked out. You take 3 to win if you don't know. Which are just like prize cards from like the regular Pokemon TCG. And this is okay. I mean, you have higher HP. You can retreat. It's not 4, it's 3, but it's certainly awkward. This card's okay. I'm honestly not a big fan of like the EXs being the same as the single prizers. I feel like I don't know. I don't know if people like this. It kind of is like, oh, the EX is another level to the regular Pokemon, which I do get being kind of cool, but I don't know. I wish we got more unique stuff, but certainly okay. Obviously better stats than the single prizer, but I do feel like the single prizer is probably about as like I think it's a little bit better. Obviously, its stats are worse, but giving up 1 less prize is really good. Admittedly, giving up like you can get two prizes knocked out or three prizers. Even though you're giving up more points with the 2-pointer, the EXs, you will be. And if I say prize, I mean points. But giving up to EXs. Like if your opponent's able to switch around that, then you might run into pretty serious issues. But Executor EX is like okay, kind of leaning into the tankiness. And same thing with Venusaur EX. Like if your opponent has to get through two Venusaur EXs, that's going to be a really rough time for them. But yeah, Executor EX is certainly okay. But the single price Executor probably does the single does the same idea. Tangela here. Okay, this is not bad. 80 HP, 40 for Grass Carlos, and heal 10 from this Pokemon. This is not a bad card. This is lower healing than obviously the heal 30s, but and should only be surviving some hit. Like if you're against a 60 HP, 20 damage Pokemon, you're just going to be cooking them. So this card is very, very solid. Not like amazing. It does not evolve apparently, so it's not great. I thought it evolved. But then we have Scyther, 30 for one grass and 70 HP. I mean, this is just a directly better stat line than the other basics. So if you're looking for like a good grass basic, this is okay. I don't know if this evolves yet, but yeah, it's a solid Pokemon. We got Pinsir next up, and 50 for each heads on double coin flip. For two grass, I'm pretty sure. It says grass, colors, but I'm sure like this looks like two grass. So you do 50 for each heads, and this is solid. I mean, it's obviously not like insane and not consistent, but it's okay. If you like coin flips and you're fine with that, then this is certainly a playable card, but not. I mean, if you flip double heads, you can just like essentially win the game. If you get like lucky, you can just win the game really quickly. If not, actually, then like you're at such an advantage that you'll just win. But if you get unlucky, then you are in a really bad spot. Then we got Cottony. It is okay. This is the first Pokemon I think we've seen like this, which is for one colorless. It does 10. Weakness is plus 20, not times 2, so it's actually stronger for these Pokemon than it would be in standard play. But that is solid if your opponent's Pokemon is weak to grass, which I don't know. I feel like not many are, but if it is, you can go in and attach a bunch of times, the attach, and then you'll knock him out. You only have 50 HP though. It's not really something you really want to be going for, and I don't think this weakness is a great weakness to be hitting, but still something to consider here, and something that may be more relevant. But it is what's considered a tech attacker. Tech, like the attacker is a tech Pokemon because it allows you to specifically target certain decks and target their weaknesses through, colorless energy. You could use it if, like, the Scyther could be considered a tech attacker because it's not like, it's one-shotting everything, but it's doing solid damage to the Pokemon that it's weak to or that are weak to it. But Cottony kind of accentuates that because weakness is really the only reason this card would be good, but it is colorless energy, which means it can be used in any type of deck without throwing off your energy. And Whimsicott here, yeah, Whimsicott here is also colorless. It does has 80 HP, again, only one retreat, does 40 damage. So this is a solid Pokemon hitting for weakness. It's not amazing. It's not a great card, but it is an okay card and one to consider. That might be good. Petalil going to be doing 10, healing 10. This is an okay card, pretty much on the same level playing field as the 20 damage Pokemon. We got Leaf Supply. This is interesting. This is actually really interesting. Could be paired with a Venusaur, though I do think I like the Butterfree, but Lilligant here. Well, I like the Victory Bell more as well. The Victory Bell is really good. But you have Lilligant here for 2 grass, does 50. Take a grass energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your bench grass Pokemon. You got a solid chunk of HP, nothing insane, but it's certainly not bad. And you can be using this attack maybe twice, and then you're in a very good position, powering up another attacker behind Lilligant, and can be in a just a great position. But we haven't seen any great big basic Pokemon. Big basics, if you're not familiar with, are it's a term that's used in the Pokemon TCG, basic Pokemon with high HP, high damage, generally like moderately expensive attack costs. We'll take a look at some later on. Then we got Skidoo, and this Pokemon does on a coin flip 40 for one colorless or nothing. This is interesting. I don't know if this is it's like the same stats as Scyther. It's colorless, but it's a coin flip. Is it the same as Scyther? That might have been 30. I don't remember. I think that was 30. But Skidoo, this is like pretty. It's solid. I mean, if you get the heads, it's really good. You can actually one-shot a Pokemon with weakness, which is like pretty insane, but also you need to flip heads. I don't think Skidoo's that good, but let's take a look at the Gigoat. This does 70 for 3 and then has 120. Pretty generic stat line. This is an okay card. Nothing super special, but not like unplayable. So far, I feel like the cards have been pretty balanced, which is nice, though. Who knows how like big of a deal the balance, like how balanced they are. But Ember on Charmander for 1 fire, do 30 and discard a fire from this Pokemon. let's just take a look at the line, honestly. Charmeleon here does 60 for 3. So discarding energy is a big issue because you're going to struggle to, get Charmeleon up. And then Charizard here, it does 150 for 4 and discard 2 fire from this Pokemon. Then Charizard DX does 200 for 4, and then you discard 2 fire from it, or 60 for 3. So the Charmander's attack is pretty good in like a vacuum, but with the evolutions, you need lots of energy, so burning all this energy is going to be an issue. Charmander has use cases, but you need to be very careful when using it. You might not want to be attacking all the time with it, and you might want to be just like leaving it on the bench while you're developing your Charizard DX. We'll talk about, I think, Moltres CX. I know it's a Pokemon that's really good. I think is very good. Charizard DX is certainly not a bad card. You can hit massive damage. You have good HP. It's not like a 3 or 4 retreat, so you can like kind of back out of it, but yeah, I think these cards are okay. They're kind of like the baseline Pokemon from what I've seen so far. They're not like broken. You got high HP, you got massive damage here. I think you're one-shotting everything. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm like 90% sure. No, I'm like 80% sure. I haven't like seen all the cards, but you're doing a lot of damage, and you're a solid card. But do not be mistaken. This is not a completely broken card. If you are someone who's like completely new to the Pokemon TCG and only knows like, oh, Charizard, yeah, no, this is not like some super broken card. Then we have Vulpix. This is an interesting card for one colorless. Flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe if they somehow switch out and switch back in, they can attack. And more importantly, if they evolve, they can attack. So, which I'm pretty sure about. That is something to keep in mind. That makes this card worse, but also means your opponent like might stop like just not evolve because they're scared of Vulpix. It is a coin flip though. I think this card's okay. It's what's called a control style deck where you just kind of disrupt your opponent and cause just annoyances to them. It can be part of that. If you played like Pokemon TCG Live against Snorlax, you're very familiar with that. And Vulpix is definitely a card that's kind of annoying, but it has low HP. Like if you flip tails, your opponent would just knock you out. So it's okay, but kind of risky. Let's take a look at the Ninetales. This is really interesting, like completely different. 90 for 2 would discard a fire from this Pokemon, a very solid damage output. It is 2 fire, so you got to be like just a fire deck. 90 damage or 90 HP is okay, but not amazing. 90 damage is very solid, though. I think Ninetales is definitely going to be, a really, really solid card, but not like a broken card. We get Growlithe 30 for no 20 for. This is like not very good. It's not completely terrible, but it's not very good either. It is all colorless. And then we got Arcanine here, which does 100 for 3, 20 to itself, and has a 130 HP. The HP is very solid, but the self damage, really counteracts that. The attack is nice here, though. I definitely think 100 for 3 is good. And you can kind of remove like the 20 damage to yourself, and then just like remove some HP, and then you look at this Pokemon, it's like this Pokemon has pretty good stats in terms of damage output. I feel like it's pretty similar to the Ninetales, to be honest. Then we got Arcanine EX, which has the same idea, has more HP, does more damage, but yet again, the stats aren't like that much better. And then you give up 2 prizes. And this is a Pokemon that will be getting knocked out most likely. The 120 damage versus 100, it's meaningful, but it's not the end all be all. The Arcanine EX I definitely think it's an okay card, but not a broken card or anything like that. Next we got the Ponyta, and Ponyta it's a generic Pokemon. Then we've got Rapidash. This is also a generic Pokemon. Lovely. Next we got ourselves Magmar. This is also kind of generic. Also, Pota's not like terrible, but it's very generic. Magmar here, 80 HP, which is high. Does have 2 retreat, 50 for 2. This is like a solid Pokemon stat wise, but it does not evolve, so keep that in mind. Then we got Flareon here, which does 110 damage for Fire Colorless. Colorless, discard a fire from this Pokemon. It is an evolution. The evolutions are kind of cool. I've not really looked at. I've looked at Vaporeon. I've not looked at Jolteon, I don't think. So Flareon, definitely a cool Pokemon to keep an eye on. With the evolutions within that like set of cards, you have solid HP, solid damage output. I think this card's just very solid. Nothing like super broken about it, but not bad either. You got Moltres. What am I? Okay, what? Okay, so this does 130 for 3 on a coin flip though. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. I feel like this card's like kind of sketchy. It's very it's kind of committal for something that might not do anything. I don't think this card's very good. It's not like completely terrible, and if you do flip heads, it can be insane, but I don't think this is a great card. We'll talk about Moltres EX though, and Moltres EX has two awesome, well, no, it has one awesome attack, which is flip the coins. Take a, I can't really read it. You get an energy from your energy zone for each heads and attach it to one of your bench fire Pokemon, or in any way you like. So if you get multiple, you can split them up, but yeah, you can do 70 for 3 as well, which is like okay. I feel like this is actually better than the 130 for 3 on a coin flip. You have 140 HP. The other Moltres has 100 HP, which is okay. This card's definitely solid. You do have 2 retreat. You'd much rather have 1 retreat here because it allows you to, pivot differently. Also, this is the first EX that is like truly different from the previous evolution. I do think the Moltres EX is a solid card, but not like a it's not a broken card or anything like that. Maybe it is. We'll see. If there's like another really good big basic fire, it's good. You could pair this like to power up the single prize Moltres though, but it is a coin flip. Next we got Heat More, 30 for 1 fire, and it does 80, or it has 80 HP as well. This is definitely a card that it's a solid card, right? It has solid stats, but nothing super crazy here. Yeah, then we have Salandit, generic stats. Salazzle, pretty generic stats here as well. Then we got Sizzlipede, pretty generic. This is a Pokemon that is colorless attack cost, so if you are trying to hit that fighting type weakness, it's okay. It is only going to be doing 10 more than like regular, though. The normal stat line is going to be doing 20 for 1, so this like weakness hitting thing, Sizzlipede's like the first really true example. You're not sacrificing your HP, but you are sacrificing some normal damage, but it's okay. The Sender Scorch, though, does for Fire colorless 130 discard a fire from this Pokemon. This attack is very solid. Um, it's not that much fire, but you do discard the fire, so you do need some fire in your deck. It's not like you can just play a few fire energies in your deck, and which I'm not exactly sure how the energy zone works, but if you don't have much fire, like you do need fire. You need some fire energy. But this is a very solid amount of damage, solid HP. Your higher retreat, it's not that big of a deal. The basic only has 1 retreat, so you can get out of there before, like if you need to. I think the Sun Scorch is a very solid card, but it is a bunch of energy, so maybe you're looking to pair this with Moltres EX or something like that. But I think Sun Scorch is solid. Moving on to Squirtle, generic stats. Wartortle, pretty generic stats. Blastoise, you got yourself 150 HP, which is really high, and it does for 3 energy, 180, and if this Pokemon has at least 2 water energies attached to it, it does 60 more damage. That is strong. I guess 140 for 5, which is a lot. I feel like you need energy acceleration to get this to work. It's not bad. The high HP is really what's going to be keeping you afloat here, I feel like, but you aren't like a super strong card either. Then the EX here has got 180 HP. This is near the highest we've seen, and then I'm going to be hitting 100 or 60 more if you have 2 extra waters. This is only 20 more. You can do 40 for 2. You have a more like a slightly more like rounded out damage curve, being able to attack for 2, but like 40 is not that much in the grand scheme of things for a Pokemon like this that's hitting so hard. It's not like it's not meaningful. If they have 140, anywhere between 110 and 140, it is pretty meaningful, but if not, then it's not meaningful. So Blastoise EX is okay, again, kind of falls prey to the same issues that a lot of the other EXs have fallen prey to, which is not bad that rare cards aren't like super broken, but you're giving up an extra point and your stats aren't that much better. Is it really worth playing? I don't know. Psyduck, this card is kind of insane in my opinion. For 1 colorless, you do 10. This is like a card that I think might be going in like every deck in the game, to be honest, and or every deck that's like kind of being tricky. It does 10 for 1, and your opponent can't use any supporters next turn. Supporters are kind of good. They can really throw you for a loop and can cause issues to you. If you stop your opponent from playing them, you're in a great spot. If your opponent's playing a fire deck, this card's insane. If they're not playing a fire deck, it can still be good. So I think Psyduck is a really good card that you might be wanting to put into essentially every deck in the game. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I think it's good. Golduck, 90 for 90 HP, 70 for 2. Water specifically is kind of awkward. Again, Cerebi.net having these like other attack costs, not entirely sure why that's the case, but anyways, yeah, no, 2 water, 70. This is a solid card, but nothing super special. Poliwag, same. This is like Psyduck, but worse. I mean, Psyduck's so good. We got Poliwhirl. Oh, and Poliwrath. Okay, so Poliwhirl is, again, colorless. It does 40 for 2 colorless. Has 90 HP, so it's kind of interesting for weakness hitting, but nothing crazy. Poliwrath, it does 80 for a water colorless. Colorless has 150 HP and has this ability, if this Pokemon is in the active and damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, do 20 to the active. This seems really solid. You're probably getting hit into twice. Let's assume it's the same Pokemon and you hit for 80. That's knocking out a lot of the Pokemon in the game. Not all of them, but it's knocking out a lot. This card seems solid, not amazing, but if you are able to like heal, like if you get 2 Butterfrees up and then Poliwrath, that's going to be a big issue. I mean, I feel like if you get 2 Butterfrees up anyway, you probably win, unless your opponent's like swinging with the Charizard, which people might be swinging with the Charizard a lot because it's Charizard, but Poliwrath definitely seems solid here. Then we got Tentacool, which is generic. Tentacool, which does 15 poison, 110 HP. These stats are solid, I feel like. Seal, pretty generic, it is colorless, but whatever. Then we have Dugong, which is 90 for 3, which is not bad. 120 HP. This card actually seems pretty solid. Really blurry, though, so I'll move on. Shelter is generic. Cloyster, this Pokemon takes minus 10 damage from attacks, which seems like kind of weird wording, but I guess that's how they're choosing to word it. 70 for 3 as well. This is solid, 120 HP. I think there are better cards that do things similar, but in terms of a tanky Pokemon, it's not bad. Then you got Krabby, pretty generic here. You got Kingler, which does KO Crab, flip 2 coins at both of heads. It does 80 more, it does 80 base, so you're not going to be hitting that double coin flip that often, but you are still doing solid damage in the meantime. This is an okay attack. We got Horsey, pretty generic stats here. Seadra, for 3 water, 50 to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon. This is one of the first snipe-based attacks we've seen. This is solid. It is kind of expensive, but it could be nice to hit your opponent's Pokemon on the bench. This Seadra actually seems like a very strong card. It can cause serious issues to your opponent if they're not expecting it. It's just doing like massive snipe damage, and it could be really good. But it is expensive as well for only doing 50 on a stage 1, but it's not bad. Goldeen, pretty generic. We got Seeking, which does 80 on a coin flip. It has 100 HP. Would definitely prefer, like, 80 is good, but it is a coin flip. I feel like this card is not one I want to be playing. We got Staryu with the bad generic stat line, and Starmie with another generic stat line, and then Starmie EX again with a generic stat line. 90 for 2 water, though, 130 HP. These stats are, wait, what? Sorry, I just kind of brief. Okay, this is the first Pokemon I've seen so far that I've noticed that has free retreat. The EX also does. A very generic Pokemon, obviously, but not completely terrible. Free retreat could be good. I mean, there's something called a pivot in Pokemon TCG where you have a free retreater, useful most notably when your active is knocked out, but because you're only getting knocked out at most 2 times throughout the course of the game before you actually lose, unless something super weird happens that I don't know of yet, then Starmie EX is like having you pivot is only going to matter a few times, so it's not like super insane to have for your tree, especially on a Pokemon that's like pretty generic that doesn't have anything super special. But this is nice to know. Just keep in mind if you are looking for a free retreater, Starmie, Starmie EX are that. Magikarp does hit 10 for 1 colorless and has 30 HP though, which is bad. Then we have Gyarados, which I talked about earlier. This is a different, yeah, this is a different art. I think I looked at the full art. It has 150 HP on a stage 1 and it's a single pointer, and it does 100 for 4, and you just credit random energy from your opponent's active. It's 4 water. It's like a really awkward without energy acceleration. I think there's some, but it's not great. What Gyarados is, it's an okay card if you want to go big. It is good, but you do need to be going big for this attack, and you need to be sitting behind something. It is also kind of weird. It can be like a wall in itself, because you can sit behind it. As for a tree, you're not retreating this thing anytime soon, but you can leave it in the active, let it soak up a bunch of hits, and then just get knocked out. But if you're pounding off something really big behind it, it could be good. But your opponent knows you're not switching. If you got Magikarp, that's not tanking hits, so it's not great at anything, but it's solid at a good few things. We got Lapras. This is an interesting card. Hydro Pump for 1 water. It does 20, but if your opponent's if this Pokemon has 3 extra water attached, so 4, it does 70 more. Which, why is Hydro? Anyway, I don't know why these like numbers are wrong, but anyways, so this is pretty solid. I just want to take a look at this altar. Yeah, no, this is what it does. So That's 90 for 4, which is solid. Not amazing, but 20 for like this is an okay Pokemon, certainly. Looking at like a semi-big basic. Vaporeon is one of my favorite cards from the set. 60 for 3, very generic, 130 HP, high but generic still. Nothing super crazy that stands out. But for 3 energy, you do heal 30 from it as well. We saw the healing on Venusaur and Venusaur EX, this heal 30, it is a stage 2. They had higher HPs, but they're stage 2s, and I think they're 4 energy as well. I think Vaporeon is pretty solid for just tanking hits, surviving hits. I feel like Vaporeon is going to be a pretty good Pokemon. And we have Almanite. Gotta talk about the fossils, but pretty generic stats here. Omastar, defending Pokemon cannot attack next turn. Wow, that's pretty strong. They can retreat. It does 70 for 3. This is theoretically really strong, but there'll be a lot of times your opponent will be able to retreat, and it's not that big of an issue, but this can be insane, so be very careful. But being a fossil, I think it will be noticeably harder to set up. Then we have Articuno. This does 60 paralysis on a coin flip. I talked about sleep before. Same idea. You're kind of relying on getting lucky, but it is water colorless on a basic, so it is like payable. 60 is solid, so not a bad big basic by any means. Also, I said that like the rarity, like this is a 3 rarity, even though it's a basic. I don't know exactly how the rarity is, but I assume it's kind of like normal Pokemon. Articuno EX here. 80 for 3 and 10 to each your opponent's benched, 40 for 2, a solid spread damage. This is the definition of a big basic. It is an EX, but it's definitely a big basic and a solid Pokemon. Then we have ourselves Ducklet, which is very generic and bad. But Swanna, they're both all colorless, and they're like okay, but they're nothing super special. 70 for 3 colorless. I mean, at the point at which you're hitting 70, doing 20 more isn't that big of a change. So it's 3. I don't think this is a very good Pokemon. It is like at all colorless, but I don't think it's very good. You could put in other decks though to diversify your weakness, but again, not great. Froakie, generic. Frogadier, generic. And then, okay, this is actually really interesting. Froakie and Frogadier are both colorless, 10 and 30 for 1 colorless, respectively, and then 50 and, or no, 60 and 80 HP, respectively. Then we have Greninja, my favorite card so far. Oh, I can't read this at all. Once during your turn, you can put 20 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. You can also do 60 for 2, which is okay, but nothing super special. But this is a really solid damage output, 20 damage on your opponent's Pokemon every turn. If you can hide behind a wall or just like tank some, I think this is going to be insane. I think Greninja plus Vaporeon could be a very solid deck. Then you have Pikachu, pretty generic stats here, like better than average, though not bad stats. 30 for 1 water and 70 HP. It's certainly alright, but of course does not evolve. Okay, this is pretty interesting. Second Strike, Bruxus, 90 HP, but for watercolors 10. But if your opponent's active has damage on it, it's a 70 in total, 60 more, so 70. This is pretty solid in a water deck. You can definitely get good value out of this. It could be really good with the Go Ninja, but you don't need to pair it with that. You can pair it with lots of different things. Good with Articuno, but just put in any water deck. I think this Pokemon is very strong. Then we have Snob, generic stats. Frostmoth, generic stats. It puts to sleep. Same idea as we talked about before. Pikachu, generic stats. Raichu is really interesting. Generic stats on Pikachu, it is 1 energy. So that attack, you just want 1 on, but then the Raichu is 3 energy, so kind of weird stuff going on there. When do you evolve it, when do you attach, stuff like that. But you can do 100, you have 100 HP, you can do 140 for 3, then you discard all the energy. You don't have free retreat, you have 1 retreat, so you can get out of there, but we'll take a turn. I think Raichu's like really sketchy, really committal, can be insane, but probably not that good. We do have Pikachu EX here, which does, this card's really good. It does 30 for each of your bench lightning Pokemon for 2 lightning energies. This can hit up to 90. You can have 3 bench Pokemon. I haven't really talked about clogging your bench or just bench slots at all before. You're probably playing just lightning Pokemon, but if you're hitting, you got 2 energies on, you're doing 90 for 2. That's really good. You only have 120 HP on a basic, which is like low, but it is okay. A basic EX specifically. This card I think is really good. I think it's one of the best pulls. It's a rare card. It's like the highest rarity of the regular arts, and it's really good. I think Pikachu EX is gonna be insane. It's definitely the card I think is like the best attacker so far. Got a generic Magnemite, but got ourselves an interesting Magneton. Okay, so it does 60 for 4, but its ability Volt Charge. Once during your turn, you may take a lightning energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. You can kind of just leave this on the bench to power up. Looks like it does not evolve though. But it is a solid Pokemon if you're playing like Pikachu EX, but I don't know if it's quite what you're looking for. Voltorb is generic. Electrode is also pretty generic, though it does 70 for 2, which is not like bad. Thunder Punch, I think it's coin flip. You do what? 40 more on a head, so it's 80, or you do 20 to yourself. I believe, and then you do 40. It's okay. It's like solid. It's really hard to read, to be honest. But yeah, it's okay. Nothing like insane. It's pretty. I mean, 80 for 2 is really good. 40 for 2 is not bad. It's not like great, but it's the 20 to yourself. I think it's 20 to yourself. I don't know if it might be 10, but I think it's 20. You're definitely gonna be getting knocked out kind of quickly, so it is like a luck dependent card, like we talked about a lot of them. Same thing with Jolteon. Okay, this is Jolteon. You flip 4 coins for 2 energies, one of which is lightning, and you do 40 for each heads. You have like okay variants, which we'll talk about as well. It's okay. It does not. It's not like the evolutions have synergy either, unfortunately. Then we have, okay, this is interesting. Zapdos doing 100 for 3 and has 100 HP. 30 to one of your own bench Pokemon. Probably not good. It's not like the self bench damage is like that bad, but I don't think it's good certainly, and it's not like insane stats to justify this. Then we have Zapdos EX. This does, it's the same attack. No, it's not the same. It's very similar to Jolteon. You flip 4 coins, 50 for each heads for 3 lightning on a basic, or you can do 20 for 1 lightning. This is a solid card. Again, a solid big basic. It does have the same weaknesses as its type as well, which is kind of weird. Then we got Blitzel with generic stats. Zebstrika. Okay, this is interesting for 1 lightning, 30 to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon. Fun snipe attack. I think Zebstrika is pretty solid as an attacker. Dynamo only has 30 HP, but does 30 for 1 lightning. No, better than average attack. But then we have Electric, which has 80 HP, 40 for 1 lightning. Pretty generic, but it's okay. Then we got Electros, 140, 80 for 3, 140 HP, 80 for 3, and then Coin Flip Paralysis. This is okay, certainly, but nothing super special. Again, you have this weird thing where you have 1 energy on the stage 1 on the pre-evolution, then a 3 on the stage 2. You're not discarding all of them, though. Then we have Helioptile with generic stats, Heliolisk with, again, generic stats. Some weird stuff going on here, but I don't really feel like talking about it. It's kind of whatever. Pincushion 30, and then on Paralysis and like Coin Flip for 2 lightning. This card seems really solid, potentially one of the better partners for Pikachu EX. If you're just looking for solid basic lightning Pokemon, the Coin Flip, the Paralysis can be really good, and it's only a basic, right? It's got 1 retreat as well, so you can retreat it when needed, and this card's solid. I think it's just a very solid basic. We got Clefairy with generic stats, Clefable, again with generic stats. Then we have Abra here, which can switch the bench for 1 colorless, which is like a thing. Then we got Kadabra, which does, pretty generic stats, kind of like not great stats. Then Alakazam here, which does 60, 30 more for each energy attached to your points active for 3 energy on stage 2, 1 of which is Psychic, has 130 HP as well. I talked about this card a little bit earlier. I think it's an okay stage 2, not the best, but it's okay. Not a bad stage 2 either. Slowpoke, pretty generic and mediocre stats. Slowbro, again, same idea. Wow, there's so many Pokemon with generic stats. Okay, we got Gengar here for 1 Psychic. For you do 50, your opponent can't use any supporters from their hand next turn. Gengar EX, its ability, if it's in the active, your opponent can't play any supporters, does 100 for 3, 170 HP as well. This card seems solid. I do like the art. I feel like this is kind of fun. Like the blues and stuff. Anyway, so Gengar EX is okay. Supporter lock's good. It does have 2 retreat though, which is not great. You want to be potentially retreating this and into something else. Being all psychic also isn't great. It's a control card. You kind of want tech options in control. I talked about this card before, and it's not great. It's not bad. It could be very good, but it doesn't do necessarily everything you're looking for it to do. Then I'm just going to start skipping these Pokemon. Let's see. What's this say? Once on your turn, you may flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active is asleep, and you can do 50 for 3. This is okay. It's certainly solid support. Putting your opponent's active to sleep can be good, but it is a stage 1 and will be throwing off your energies. Don't be putting this in your like Greninja decks, but could be good. Really annoying with like the supporter locking as well. So how much did that Gengar do? Okay, it did 50 for only 1, but you're looking for more than that probably. Mr. Mime. Okay, this is interesting. It has 30 HP, or no, does 30 for 2 and takes 20 less from attacks. Has 80 HP. Pretty tanky here. 1 retreat. I actually like this as a basic a bunch, being able to just like really protect you a lot in the early game. Jinx has Psychic just like Alakazam, 30 for 2, 1 which is Psychic, and 20 more free energy attached to your points active. This can be hitting solid amounts of damage. I feel like this card is solid, certainly not a bad card. It is actually I think it's a pretty good card. Mewtwo here, and then Mewtwo X are pretty similar. Mewtwo does for 4 energy, 2 which are psychic, 120, discard 2 psychic from this Pokemon. I feel like this is too expensive, but it's not a bad card. Mewtwo EX does the same thing, except it's like 150, and it can do 50 for 2. That's the same stuff we've been looking at before. Has 150 HP as well. We'll talk about it a bit more with Gardevoir. We got Ralts, we got Curlia, and then we got Gardevoir, which you're trying to take a psychic energy from your energy zone and attach it to the active psychic Pokemon in the no, what the psychic Pokemon in the active spot. So I think this is really good with Mewtwo and Mewtwo EX. You can pair both of those in the deck. You can actually play 4. You can play the two single prizer, the 2 single pointer, and the 2 EXs. So by the way, single point Pokemon or single prize Pokemon are sometimes called babies. I might start referring to them as that, like baby Mewtwo. But Gardevoir is definitely a Pokemon with a really great ability. They can lend awesome support. It does 60 for 3, which is obviously not very good, but this allows you to like retreat it out. You can do a lot of stuff that you really need to do. So I think Gardevoir is a very solid Pokemon. I guess paired with the Mewtwo's so far. Woobat and Swoobat, pretty generic. We got ourselves Golett. And I'm not going to go too in depth into the very generic Pokemon right now. I need to take a look at all of them, and then eventually I'll probably make a list of like which are the best, like what stat lines are good and stuff. But yeah, Golett pretty generic. Though like it hits 50 for 3, which is like kind of cool. Does have 3 retreat though. Golurk's 140 HP, double area, 100 for each heads for 4. I think that's kind of bad. Again, the variance is something you can't ever really rely on. It can be something your opponent can't rely on, but it is it is pretty. It's okay, but not my card. My type of card. Sandshrew, pretty generic. Sandslash, again, also pretty generic. We got Diglett, which is pretty generic. Dugtrio, what does this say? Flip coin. If heads, during your opponent's next turn, print all damage from and effects of attacks into this Pokemon. I think that's what it says. For 40 for 1 fighting, that's really good. Not broken, but like immune half the time. 7 HP is like the issue here, but I think this card's pretty solid. It is coin flippy, but you are getting guaranteed value every single time you're using it. I'm assuming I'm reading this right. So Dugtrio, definitely a card that I feel like it's solid. Then we got Mankey, which is generic Primeape. This is a pretty good card. If this Pokemon has damage on it, it does 100 for 2 fighting, otherwise just 40. Has 90 HP, so not like that high, but I think Primeape is definitely a card that's going to be coming in here hitting a really massive amount of damage. It's just like two-shotting or one-shotting all these Pokemon. You need to like kind of keep it alive, but make sure there's damage on it. But with potions and stuff, I feel like you can do that, and I feel like people aren't just going to be one-shotting Primeape all the time and just getting absolutely messed up by this card. I think this card's very solid. We got Machop, we got ourselves a Machoke, and we got ourselves Machamp. Wow, those are so boring. Machamp EX, also pretty boring. Not like a terrible card. I mean, I feel like EXs are okay, but they're not like... I obviously haven't played it yet, and I won't be playing it for a little while, but that will mean that by the time I do first play it, there's some idea of how good the EXs are, but I'm going to predict that EXs are just okay. I feel like they're not going to be like you pull an EX, you win. If you don't, like you can't compete. Assuming you're playing like somewhat strategically. Even if you're not, I feel like they're pretty tame. We got Geodude, Graveler, and Golem, which has 160 HP. 4 energy does 150, but 50 to itself. I feel like this card's really bad. Has full retreat. This is really expensive. You can power it up, but then you're dealing massive amounts of self damage. After 2 attacks, you're down to 60 HP. That's like a basic. That's terrible. 150 is good. Unless you got insane acceleration, I think you do have some solid acceleration. Maybe it's okay with the acceleration. The previous evolutions are certainly okay as well. And we got Onyx, which is 70 for 3, 110 HP, but has full retreat, of course. Cubone, during your opponent's next turn, attacks you by the defending Pokemon do 20 less. This is pretty cool, reducing damage done. Marowak just has a pretty generic attack. I think this Cubone's kind of interesting. Could be played just as a one-of in control-based decks to really stop your opponent in their tracks on certain occasions, specifically in the early game, but it's not a tech attack in the form of, weakness. It doesn't do any damage. Then we have Marowak EX. This is very generic. Or is it generic? I know it does. I talked about this card earlier, but you flip 2 coins, 80 for each heads, which is okay. Hitmonlee, this is arguably my favorite Pokemon so far from this set. Stretch Kick for one fighting, 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. That's insane. I mean, that's like solid damage output, right? 30 for one, but you control where it goes. You cannot hit the active, but you can hit any of their bench. You can control if they decide to retreat. You just start targeting those Pokemon. I think Hitmonlee Greninja is the deck I'm going to be playing. I don't know. There might be another set by the time the game drops, but this is the deck I'm most looking forward to, with some other stuff as well, but like a spread-based deck with some water and fighting stuff. I think Hitmonlee is a really cool card, potentially one that I might want to build a deck around. Maybe Hitmonlee Text, I don't know, but yeah, we got Hitmonchan, which is the complete, I don't know if the complete opposite, but same HP, 80 HP, you got, which is solid. Like that 80 HP is really good for a basic, and you do 30 for one to the active, so you can hit the active or you can hit the bench between these two. You got Rhyhorn, right on, which is getting expensive. Oh wow, that's 100 for 4, 120 HP. Not great in my opinion. Kabuto and Kabutops, which can heal. Okay, it does 50, or if you do more, it says Leech Life for one fighting. Healed from this Pokemon the same amount of damage you did to your points active. This card seems really good. We'll take a look at Mewtwo in a minute, but 140 HP plus healing 50. This card seems pretty insane. The other stage 2 fossil was, I'm just gonna pull it up. I don't remember what it is at this point. It was the almost star, but okay. Oh, that's the one where they can't attack next turn, which is like kind of good, but isn't gonna be knocking out like all your opponent's Pokemon. This could though. I feel like this is a Pokemon that can kind of just sweep. I think this Kabutops is really really good. Then we got Mean Food. This one is for one fight or one colorless. It does 20. It's a fighting type. Fighting type hits a good chunk of Pokemon for weakness. I feel like I think this Mean Food is actually really solid as a tech attacker. Mean Shao. Okay, this is the same concept. It has this is kind of a little more generic, a little like tamer. I feel like it's 40 for one colorless and then has 80 HP, but is okay still. Clobberpuss here is going to be doing Clobberpuss, not Clobber. Has 80 HP, 30 pretty generic stats. Grapplock. This is interesting. Um, you do 70 for fighting colorless, but then you have 130 HP, but you switch out your points active to the bench after doing the damage. I feel like this Grapplock is a very solid card for like forcing opponents active to the bench. It's not like insane, but I think it's solid. Kind of throwing a wrench in their game plan, but not great. Okay, Atkins, we've got Arbok, which has 60 for 2, Darkness Colorless, and they can't retreat next turn. This could be really good. I think retreating will be really important. I don't think Darkness is the best type, but I do think this Arbok is a pretty solid card. Nidoran, put one random Nidoran female from, what's that? No, Nidoran male from your deck onto your bench. This is Nidoran female. Nidorina is generic, and then Nidoqueen Love Strike. If this stack does 50 more damage for each of your bench Nidoking. So if you have two bench Nidoking, it does 180 for 3, which is insane. Probably not. I mean, Nidoking, it's another stage 2. It's 80 or 130. I feel like you're just mostly hitting 80, but it's not a terrible attacker. We got the Nidoran male, which is generic here. Nidorino, which is generic. And then we got Nidoking, which does for 3 and 90 in poisons. This is okay. I was talking earlier and saying that it was kind of generic and not that good, but paired with the Nidoqueen, this might be okay as like a fun little deck here, but it's taking up 12 slots, so that could be like all your Pokemon. You just got the 222 line, and then you could just have trainers. So that's like the first deck that I'm kind of fully seeing come to fruition, just in my mind. Not fully, not with trainers, but seems solid. Zubat, pretty generic. Crobat, Golbat, generic. No Crobat. Grimer does 10 in poison for 1 darkness. Poison solid. Then we have Muck, which has Venoshock. If your opponent's active is poisoned, it does 50 more. It does 70 a base. So that's 120 plus poison, which they've probably already taken damage from. You're probably just knocking whatever you're hitting out for Darkness Colossus, but your opponent will probably just retreat. So I don't know. I feel like Muck's not like that good, but we might need to talk about it a little bit later as well. Coughing, Darkness Colorless, or Darkness, sorry, 20, it's generic stats. Then we got Wheezing with this ability, Gas Leak. If it's in the active, you can make your opponent's active poisoned. If you're able to switch into the Muck, then you can hit for the big damage, though. So that is actually a pretty valid combo. This is going to be a deck, the Wheezing Muck deck, which I'll talk about a little bit more later as well. Then we got Mawile. For 1 melee, you do 20, 70 HP, 1 retreat, fire weakness, and On a coin flip, you discard a random energy from your opponent's active. This is like better than normal stats by a noticeable amount. On the heads, you're in a pretty good spot. On the tails, it's whatever. This is definitely a very playable card. Poniard, pretty generic, though. Oh, no, this is not bad. It does 30 for 1, and has 50 HP, but I think this is solid. Then Bishop here doing 70 for 2 and having 90 HP. Also with one of my favorite Bishop arts. I think Bishop's a cool Pokemon, too. And then we got Meltan, which accelerates an energy to itself with this attack. And then you got Melmetal here, which takes 20 less from attacks, I believe. And as with 30 HP, does win 20 for 4, and the Meltan has 60 HP, will be accelerating energy over time as well. So I think this Melmetal is okay. It just depends how long can your Meltan survive using a mass, but if you can use it a few turns, this Melmetal is really, really strong. Then we have Dratini, which is generic. Our first Dragon Pokemon, which seemed kind of sketchy. Dragonair, kind of generic again. Then Dragonite. I talked about this a little earlier. Uh, One of your opponent's Pokemon is chosen at random 4 times. For each time a Pokemon is chosen, do 50 to it. For Water Lightning, Colorless, which is payable, but like kind of weird. Definitely a build-around card. Maybe pair this with Greninja. I think this card's fun. It's a little gimmicky, obviously, but I do think it uses Pocket's mechanics really well. Pidgey's generic, Pidgeotto generic, but Pidgeot is not generic. Its ability to drive off. You can force your opponents active to the bench. This is really strong because now they're on the bench and they cannot necessarily do what they want. This can allow you to take attacks on Pokemon that your opponent's not, they don't want to give up. So Pidgeot is really good. It's not necessarily the same thing as Gus, but it's similar and it is very powerful. It's like not the closest thing we have to Gust because we do have Gust in the form of the Victory Bell, but this is pretty good. You can use it every turn. So I think this Pidgeot is a strong card. Got Rattata, which is not good. Eradicate, which is also not particularly great. I don't think. Spearow, which is pretty generic. Then we have Fearow, which on a coin flip discard a random energy from your opponent's active, but this is 50 for 2, which isn't particularly strong. It has 100 HP. Pretty generic stuff here. Jigglypuff, generic. Wigglytuff, again, generic. Wigglytuff EX 80 for 3, puts them to sleep, 140 HP. Same stuff I said about sleep before. Meowth. Oh, I don't like this art. I don't know if this is just me. It's kind of, I don't know, I find it kind of creepy. But Payday for 1 color, so you do 10 and draw a card. This card's so good. You cannot pass the hand limit, but setup attacks I think are really solid because you'll have at least a turn or two to use them. You might need to retreat into Meowth, but I think this card is very strong. Persian, 40 for 2 colors. Flip coin of heads. Discard a random card from your opponent's hand. I don't think this is particularly great. I mean, if you're playing Meowth, maybe you'll play Persian too, but obviously the damage is low. It can be really disruptive, but it's probably nothing super special. Then we got this Farfetch, which is like kind of busted. It does with Leak Slap. It is 40 for 1 colorless, which is like an insane stat line. You only got 60 HP, which is like generic, but this card is really good. Then we have Dodua, which is, I mean, just comparing the stuff here, you're the same Pokemon, except you do half as much damage for the same energy cost. Dodrio, and then this is the same attack as the Farfetch, but it's a basic. Farfetch is the basic, not this one. So, pretty generic. Lickitung, 60 flip a coin until you get, for each heads, flip a coin until you get tails for 3 colorless. Probably not anything super special. It's not great. Chansey, 60 for 3. I do think is better. You do have more HP as well, and the same retreat. So I feel like Chansey is like a solid Pokemon to kind of sit behind, deal some damage. You got some different options. It's a solid Pokemon. So we got Kangaskhan, and Kangaskhan does on double coin flip. You do 30 for each heads. You have 100 HP. Pretty solid, like basic stat Pokemon. It's a Pokemon I've talked about before, and I think it's all right. I think it's good, not broken. You got Tauros here, which does 50 for 2, which is not bad, and has 100. This is like a solid basic. I feel like. Ditto. Oh, let's go. Okay, for 1 colorless, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. If this Pokemon doesn't have the necessary energy to use that attack, it does nothing. This is really cool. Obviously not the most versatile. I mean, it's like versatile, but like you need to do some weird stuff with this. But I think it's a really fun attack here. I think it can be any of their Pokemon. Not 100% sure in that one. That's what it looks like, though. This is a fun card. I don't know if it's very good, but it seems really fun. Got Eevee. We got ourselves another Eevee, which is like apparently it's a different Eevee, but it's just like it's the same card, different art. Another Eevee. Oh, I guess each of the like evolutions has different art. Porygon, once during your turn, you can look at the top card of your deck, giving you some knowledge for next turn, but nothing super crazy. I don't actually love the design, based on like the card design, not the imagery, but the like mechanics. I feel like it's kind of weird, but it's a solid card. Aerodactyl. For 2 colors, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent shuffles their active into their deck, which is like super bizarre and random. It's nothing super special. Snorlax has 150 HP on a basic. It does have a 4 retreat and does 70 for 4, which is like not that good, but not completely terrible, but not that good. The HP is so high though, you could definitely just sit behind this, maybe set up some of your stage 2s and have a really fun time with that. But if your opponent's also setting up their stage 2s, maybe it's not going to work out very well. Minccino is just generic Minccino. 30 for each of your bench Pokemon. Same thing as Pikachu. Is at stage 1, 2 energy, all colorless. It's not the same thing, but same damage output. If all your bench are lightning, but they don't all need to be lightning for this. So Minccino looks solid. Then we have, it is a little expensive, but I think it is okay. We got Willow here. We got ourselves Double. Again, both generic. Then we got ourselves the Fossils. Play as if it were a 40 HP basic colorless Pokemon. At any time during your turn, you may discard this card from play. It cannot retreat. I think these card designs are kind of terrible because, well, in like standard, they're complicated. They're still complicated here. I don't know why Pokemon's printing these fossils. They're just like complicated. They're not that good. Some of the stage 2 fossils are good, but the fossils themselves aren't good. Anyway, Erica. Oh, this Erica supporter is really good. Heal 50 from one of your grass Pokemon. This is good for the, if you're playing Butterfree Venusaur, I think Erica is going to be an insane supporter in that deck, allowing you to just buy extra time. And yeah, Erica seems very, very good. As a supporter, not like broken, but good. Misty, choose one of your water Pokemon and flip a coin until you get tails. Reach heads, take water energy from your, like, just accelerating energy. I'm not a big fan of this card. I mean, I kind of get why it's here, but I don't love the coin flip nature of it. It's not going to consistently accelerate energy. Not a bad card, but not a great card. Then we got Blaine. During this turn, attacks used by your Ninetales, Rapidash, or Magmar do 30 more to your opponent's active. Okay, I'm going to take a quick look at those then. Ninetales, I think, was 70 for 2. So I have not looked at these cards really much before. Rapidash, what was that? 40 for 1. Okay. Then Ninetales did have you discard an energy. And then, what was the third one? And then Magmar here, which was hitting. Where's Magmar? I cannot find this. Okay, there we go. 50 for 2. Yeah, so these are like solid generic Pokemon. But plus 30 is a very good chunk of damage. We saw the other support. I think it was Giovanni, which is 10 more, which is okay. But I think Blaine, yeah, this is really interesting. All these Pokemon are nothing special, but with Blaine, they're really powerful. I mean, hitting 120 for 2 on stage 1 is pretty insane. I mean, like these are turn them into insane stat lines, so I think they might be seriously like solid. The Blaine deck might be pretty good. We get Koga, put a Muck or Wheezing from the active into your hand. This is really useful. It does like act as healing and is switching, but it allows you to like do the poison combo thing with you get the Wheezing, use its ability, bring it to your hand, and then use Muck, and then just yeah, I mean you can then do big damage. So like Koga is a good supporter for obviously like the Koga deck specifically. Then we got Giovanni, your opponent's active, or yeah, you do 10 more to your opponent's active from attacks this turn. It's a solid card, one I would recommend playing, but it's nothing super spectacular. But it will be nice to get some extra damage throughout the course of the game. We got Brock for 1, take a fighting from your energy zone and attach it to Golem or Onyx. Okay, it only accelerates to Golem or to Onyx, of course. Golem, but not the previous evolutions to Golem. And if we ever get a Metal Steelix, then that might be a little weird. Golem, I saw it. It wasn't very good. Its attacks are really expensive. Even with Brock, it's very expensive, and it's not that tanky with its self damage. Onyx is nothing spectacular with energy acceleration. It's solid certainly, but you do need that energy acceleration and willing to draw into Brock. So I feel like the Brock deck. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that good. Sabrina, switch out your points active to the bench. Okay, this is huge. This is a porter that I feel like you have to play as a 2 of in every deck. Pushing points active to the bench is really, really good. We got Lieutenant Surge, which is the last card in the set. Move all lightning energy from your benched Pokemon to your Raichu, Electrode, or Electabuzz in the active spot. That's really interesting, allowing you for some fun combos. Don't know exactly how good it is, but Raichu, Electrode, or Electabuzz. Okay, this is really good for Raichu with its expensive attack being 3 energy, which is kind of awkward to use. You can just do some really good stuff. Okay, this is actually really good. I didn't realize what this was. Okay, so you accelerate energy to Magneton, and then you use Lieutenant Surge to move the energy to Raichu. What were the other ones? Electrode or Electabuzz. Electrode was pretty generic. I feel like it's not so useful there. And then Electabuzz is like also kind of whatever. But you have this Magneton Raichu, um, the Lieutenant Surge combo. Maybe you're playing this with the Pikachu EX as well. I think this Lieutenant Surge is fun. I think this is a really fun card. And so far, my favorite cards from this set, I'll say, are Butterfree. Seems really good. Um, Beedrill seems like kind of fun. Nothing insane. Vileplume, no, not Vileplume. Um, the Victory Belt seems like kind of insane. I mean, it's the only Gust Pokemon. Yeah, you choose the basic you're gusting. So this is like really good. Then you have some other like solid Pokemon in here, but um, you have Greninja. Greninja, I'm really hyped for. Greninja, Vaporeon. There's some cool like lightning stuff. Lightning is arguably my favorite type. I mean, I call it yellow. That's why I like lightning, to be honest. But no, that's not necessarily true. I think lightning is just kind of fun. Mr. Mime seems good. Jinx seems pretty good as well. I'm not like super stoked from YouTube Gardevoir. Not like I don't like it, but it's fine. That's kind of like the one of the advertised next, but not like super inspiring to me. Hitmonlee, and I guess Hitmonchan too. I really love those. Kabutops seems good. I feel like the fossil thing's kind of janky. Um, then like the Weezing's cool. It's a little weird, but I do like it as a card. Definitely want to play with that some when that comes out. Meowth I think is good. Farfetch is like super cracked. Ditto's really fun as well, but and the supporters are just generally solid. Nothing insane, but they are cool. Really excited to play Pokemon TCG Pocket in a month. I think it's gonna be really cool. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, which was not the shortest, not a podcast, but it's a very good video. But I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.